Welcome back to another episode of Your Life by Design. In this episode, I want to talk about the power of saying no. So, of course, we're going to talk about boundaries, but I want to take it into two different directions with boundaries. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine today about how she often teaches her kids that when you are saying yes to something, you're actually saying no to something else. And you have to be okay with saying no to something else. And of course, that's a concept that is very much of this, there's a duality in it, right? Where how can one exist and then something else also exists or not? There's like that, the duality in there. And so explaining when you're saying yes to something, then you're also saying no to something else. So she gave the example of like me saying yes to this meeting means I'm saying no to spending time with you tonight. And I think that as people pleasers, those who've had any sort of trauma, which we've all had trauma, whether it's little t or capital T trauma, a lot of us were raised to be people pleasers because of not wanting to disappoint the people who brought us food, right? The people who were responsible for our survival at such a young age. We wanted to make sure that they were happy and proud, and knowing that if they were happy or proud, that we were going to get fed, we were going to stay alive. And that comes from such a subconscious mind reptilian part of the brain that's also wired in survival from like a tribal perspective, like an evolutionary perspective. But a lot of times that need to people please and for approval continues, even though consciously you're aware of they're not responsible for your survival. And of course, yes, as an infant, yes, they are like they can't be themselves. But as an adult, when you become older, you can get your own food, but there's still this instinctual piece to that moralistic upbringing, right? The pride, the shame, the blame piece. And so a lot of times we don't want to disappoint people because it brings up those uncomfortable feelings. And so we are likely to say yes to a lot of things, even if we don't want to say. And I will tell you that this was a game changer for me when I found out my human design authority, because it really helped me figure out what I really wanted to say yes to. Am I saying yes out of obligation, or I'm saying yes because it feels good? Because if I'm saying it out of obligation, I'm going to get burnt out. I'm going to feel a lot of resistance, or I'm going to, what's the word? Not regret, but I'm going to, I can't think of it right now, but I have a lot of resistance around that experience, versus if I'm saying yes to something, I'm going to be lit up. I'm going to be super excited about it. So where in your life are you saying yes to things that you don't want to say yes to? And it can be a hard conversation to have, especially if it's talking about quality of life or work-life balance. I'm going to say no to this client, even though this client is going to pay me and I'm going to make, it's going to help with my income, but I'm going to say no to this client so I can say yes to this massage, or I can say yes to my health or my mindset, or saying yes to whatever works for me. And this was something that I experienced very recently, where I had an opportunity to take on another client, a speech therapy client that is, and I said no because it would have, saying yes to this client would have, it just would have disrupted the flow of my day. And it just wasn't something that I was willing to sacrifice. And like the flow of my day, or just I felt like I would have been very much racing and quickly moving from one thing to the next to make this work. And this is something that I would have said in the past. I would have said, absolutely, we'll make this work. But sometimes you have to just figure out what is going to work for you. And saying no to something means you're saying yes to yourself, right? And so the boundaries of recognizing, where can you clear up these leaks, these energetic leaks? Where can you patch it up and have more of a solid flow to your energy by saying yes when it's an aligned yes and a no when it's aligned no, versus what is this other person going to think of? What is this other person going to think of if I say no to them? I don't want to disappoint them. I don't want to, whatever, insert any reason. So I think it's important to reflect on your boundaries. How, what are your rules? What is something like are non-negotiables for you? Are you burnt out? So if you are, where are you saying yes to things that you don't want to say yes to? And where you're using your energy that's not in alignment? As manifestors and generators, we have this immense amount of energy. And so sometimes we direct this energy to things just to use it up. That may not feel good because we didn't check in with our authority. And so we might be doing things that we're just not really wanting to do, which can lead to burnout, can lead to regret. And so I'm still trying to think of that R word that's not coming to me, but they could have a lot of different, like, this feelings coming up where it's not for us. So that's one direction I wanted to take this call, is really recognizing that when you're saying no to something, instead of worrying about what is this other person going to think of me, or it's really hard for me to say no because I'm a yes person. But when you're saying no to something that's not in alignment, you're saying yes to yourself that is in alignment. And so take like a bird's eye view of that. Like, how can you clean up that energy? That's one direction. The other one, I'm going to take more of like energetic boundaries, which I've talked about, energetic leaks, but I'm talking more about boundaries with light workers. And this was a conversation that I had with this incredible light worker I worked with a month or so ago. And we were talking about how you have to be careful who you receive energy work from. So Reiki, like any type of energy work, that just because they do Reiki, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're pulling in the right energy of the highest good. And so it's having those energetic boundaries of, if you're about to receive some energy work from someone, to set the boundary that you're only here to receive energy from that's going to help your highest good, that is of the light. Because apparently there are entities that are like, I don't know how it's worded, but like Reiki entities, where like they're like an energy that mimics that comes in through the Reiki channel. And if you don't have those energetic boundaries up, you can be opening yourself up to something else, which I find fascinating. As someone who's trained in Reiki, we were taught how to protect ourselves. I don't recall it being really emphasized about what can come in during that, and making sure that if you're working with someone, it is someone of the highest light, and setting those energetic boundaries. I know there are people who might be getting different procedures done, and then they want to make sure that all cords are cut or any karmic debt is removed, so that if you're working with someone who has some sort of like karma or karmic debt that you owe, that it's not going to be transferred during this procedure. This is the topic for another day because I don't know too much about that. But I do know that you can cord into people, and I'm a quarter. It's something I have to be really careful of. But you can easily cord into people and take on their energy. So making sure that you're having those energetic boundaries to protect yourself. And one way to set up this energetic boundary is to literally picture a shield over your body. And it's a shield that's clear, it's transparent, but it's not porous, meaning like your energy doesn't leak, doesn't escape, and you don't take on other energy. And it's just the intention that you're setting. A lot of stuff that we do is setting intentions. Our mind loves intentions. Our subconscious mind loves intentions. So even if you set an intention before you do anything, it's going to help make things more meaningful, because your subconscious mind is going to look for things to set that intention, to confirm that intention. And so if you're setting, like if you're wanting to do any energy work or receive Reiki or even massage or whatever, is having those energetic boundaries in place so that it's nothing but the highest good that's coming to you, and not any entities are going to come in. There's a lot to be said about the veil getting thinner right now, and that there could be a lot of sneaky energies that are coming in. I did an interview with Jen McNerney. It's one of my early interviews I did on the podcast, but she's a former speech therapist turned into energy worker. And she talks a lot about one of her gifts are like actually removing entities. And there are entities for literally everything. There's a technology entity that will like mess up your technology. And that particular episode, the recording kept cutting out. And when it came back on, she literally was like pulling it off. Like as the video was coming back on, I saw her pulling things out. So there are different entities that come in, and the way to protect yourself is through boundaries. So it's important to have literal and physical boundaries around what you're giving acceptance to, what you're saying yes to, what you're saying no to, but also energetic boundaries so you don't have energetic leaks, but also you're not taking on things that are not meant for you. All right. I hope this is a good episode for you guys. I would love if you are enjoying these episodes, if you are listening to this either on Spotify or Apple and you've enjoyed even one of my episodes, I would greatly, deeply appreciate you leaving a review, or even a 5-star review. I think on Apple you can do a written review, but the 5-star review, it literally takes 5 seconds. You just click on it. That would mean so much. It actually helps me move up, I guess, in the rating to help other people see that this podcast even exists and that it can help people just to broaden my reach. And so if it's something that you are, or if you're watching on YouTube, to leave a review as well. If you are someone that that has been enjoying these episodes, I would greatly and deeply appreciate a review. All right, thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.